Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Your Questions and My Answers. In this video today, I will be answering some of the questions that you have been asking me in the comments. Now let's look at your questions. So the first one I have is, what are the updates about offshore skilled migration? So Salia, not much is happening with the offshore skilled migration. However, recently South Australia opened some occupations. They opened about 70 occupations for the offshore applicants. So you may want to watch that video. I will put the link in the description. Tasmania is also taking applications from offshore applicants. So that is also something you can look at. You may also want to consider the global talent visa if you fall in one of the target sectors. So we do have various videos about the global talent visa as well. I will put the link in the description. The other thing the offshore applicants can consider at the moment is the employer-sponsored visa, especially if your occupation is on the priority migration skilled occupation list. So we have various videos about the employer sponsorship visa as well. I will put the link in the description. Shubham is asking, please tell us if it's mandatory to have settlement funds 6 months old to the date of state nomination. So I think you're asking about Queensland. So it is not a requirement that how old the funds need to be, as long as you have got the available funds in your bank account. They only want to see the balance confirmation. Chandima Silva is asking, person who is 43 years old, received the 491 visa and he needs to work for 3 years before PR. When he is applying for the permanent residency, his age is 46. Then can he be granted the permanent residency or not? So you have to meet the points requirement only at the 491 stage. You do not have to meet the points requirement or the age requirement at the 191 stage. So even if you have turned 46 by the time you lodge the 191 visa, that's fine. Neil is asking, I have been working as software developer for the last 3 months in South Australia for 20 hours a week, but completed MIT in Melbourne, worked 2 years in the same role in Melbourne. Will I be eligible for after 1 year for a 491 in IT? Currently, I'm doing diploma in nursing and got a job offer in aged care. So I can work side by side both IT and aged care for each for 20 hours a week. Any response would be greatly appreciated. So for your occupation of software developer, South Australia requires you to be working in your nominated occupation for 6 months if you're working in the outer regional South Australia. So you haven't mentioned where you're working, but if you're working in Adelaide, then they need that you have 12 months work experience, and that work experience could be 20 hours a week as well. So when you have worked 12 months as a software developer for 20 hours a week, you could go for the 491. Whereas if you have worked in the outer regional South Australia 20 hours a week for the software developer, you can go for the 491 after 6 months. Rohan is asking, when will offshore applicants be invited for New South Wales 190 and 491 visa? So Rohan, as you know, that South Australia has recently announced that they have opened for the offshore applicants. So we are hoping for a similar news from New South Wales as well, but we are just not sure when they will open for the offshore applicants. It could be this financial year, but it could also be the next financial year. Ramandeep Kaur is asking, what are the chances to get 190 with trade course, 75 points, New South Wales? So Ramandeep, you haven't mentioned your occupation, but if it is not a very common occupation, which means it's not very competitive, then there is a possibility that you could get invited with 75 points. But usually with New South Wales for 190, I highly recommend that you target for higher points. Devki is asking, can you please post the link of invitation round for 190 New South Wales happened on 10th September 2021. So Devki, there is actually no link for the invitation round because New South Wales does not publish their invitation round on their website. The data that I shared with you in my last video was based on the invites that we have received for our clients. So TK is asking how to know what is closely related job in our qualification. If I do IT masters, then which jobs are closely related to it? So each occupation has an N-score code, which is a 6-digit number. So as long as the first 4 digits match of the occupations, that is deemed as closely related occupations. You can also see the 4 occupations on my screen. So you can see that the analyst programmer, developer programmer, software engineer, and software and applications programmer, NEC, they all share the first 4 digits. So the first 4 digits of all these 4 occupations are same. So it means that these are closely related occupations. Ruchi is asking, do you give free consultation to offshore students for 2022 intake? So Ruchi, not at the moment, because we are still not sure when the borders will reopen for international students. But as soon as we find out, we will be holding few webinars in the future for offshore applicants. So we will share the details through our YouTube channel or our Facebook page. Mohammed is asking, can you help in Australian university admission? Yes, we do help in university enrollments. If you are currently in Australia, you can actually book a consultation with one of our migration agents. So the consultations are free for student visas, for course enrollments, and also the temporary graduate visas. Hishan is asking, hi Suman, please may I know, I learned commercial cookery level 4 and diploma hospitality management 2 years. So can I claim 10 points or 15 points? 10 points for educational qualification and 5 points for Australian study requirement. So if you've studied 2 years in Australia and you have studied a diploma level of course, the total points will be 15. So which is 10 for the diploma and 5 for the Australian study. Roy is asking, I'm in Australia and my wife is in India, never been to Australia or hold a visa. My question is, can I claim her 5 points if I'm in Australia and she's in India? Will I be able to file 190 combined application? So when you do a combined visa application for 190, so your dependent, which is your wife, doesn't have to be in Australia. So you can add her in the application and you can also claim 5 points because she's got 6 each in English. Ruchi is asking, what is the eligibility criteria for Bachelors of Medical Laboratory? So if you do a Bachelors of Medical Laboratory Science, the occupation is Medical Laboratory Scientist, which is on the MLTSSL list. So usually universities require you to have overall 6.5 and minimum 6 in the English score. You just have to make sure that the bachelor's that you do is accredited by AIMS. AIMS is Australian Institute of Medical and Clinical Scientists, as they are responsible to give you a skills assessment once you have completed your bachelor's. Candy is asking, what if for 491 New South Wales Regional, the primary applicant is accountant, so the occupation is on the MLTSSL list, and the spouse is on the ROL, which is the Financial Institution Branch Manager, and they have given the N-score code as well, 149914. It can be added for additional 10 points for skilled partner. So that's a very good question, Candy. Actually, we have made a video regarding this in the past as well. I will put the link in the description. But to answer your question, yes, you can. So when you go for a 491 state-sponsored visa, your dependent, your spouse's occupation could be on the ROL list as well. So it doesn't have to be on the MLTSSL list. So when you go for the 491 state-sponsored visa, which is, in your case, you're going for the New South Wales, your occupation, yours and your spouse's occupation does not have to be on the same list. So if your spouse's occupation is on the ROL and yours is on the MLTSSL, that's fine because you're going for a 491 visa. Kinjal is asking, can I buy a small business in Queensland while working on 482 visa in Melbourne? Unfortunately not. This is because one of the requirements for the small business owner stream is that you need to be working a minimum of 35 hours in your business. Asim is asking, New South Wales has 2124 journalists on the 190 list. I am assessed for copywriter. Which one do I select on the EUI? So you would select the occupation in which you have got the skills assessment in. So in your case, you would go for the copywriter. Elio is asking, I would like to know about the Diploma of Community Services course. Please, could you explain this to us? So the Diploma of Community Services, it's a very good course because the occupation outcome is community worker, which is on the STSOL list and usually open in all states. So with this one, you just have to be careful that you do an accredited Diploma of Community Services course because otherwise you won't be able to get a skills assessment. Also, another thing to note with this course is that you will not be eligible for a temporary graduate visa after doing this diploma, as this occupation is not on the MLTSSL list. Mohammed is asking, I want to know my points I've got BSc Engineering from Dhaka University of Engineering and Technology. Can I claim 20 points? Bachelor 15 points and Public University 5 points. So if you have completed your bachelor's overseas, not in Australia, then in that case, it's usually 15 points that you can claim for. Sergio is asking, I got my EOI for 190 491. I think you mean that you have already lodged your EOI for 190 and 491. Just wondering if I need to make a new EOI for my 189, or it's a better idea just to click the 189 box in my old EOI. So when you lodge your 190 or 491 expression of interest, you will have to choose the state, because if you put any, usually your EOIs, they don't get picked up. So the way I would do it is that I would lodge a separate expression of interest for 190 and 491, because you have to take the state you are interested in, because if you choose any state, then your EOI will never get picked up. And for the 189, I would prefer to lodge a separate EOI. So I hope I have answered some of your frequently asked questions through this video. If you have any further questions, please feel free to put it in the comments, and I will soon be making another video with your questions and my answers.
Stay updated about Australia's immigration. Make sure that you subscribe to our channel.